First zipper that we're going to do is a center lap zipper, which means that the sides of the zipper go directly on each side, evenly spaced. Kind of like what you would see on the front of a hoodie. You're going to take this, and we're going to measure this, and you measure it from the top of the zipper down to just below the metal and put a pin. With a zipper, you always want to measure finished edge to finished edge, unfinished edge to unfinished edge. So in this case, this is unfinished, and we have an unfinished fabric that we're putting in. If we would have had this as a hoodie and it would have been finished at the top, such as this, we would line it up with where the lock of the zipper is, and we would fold this piece down. You don't want to cut that off because it will fray just like fabric, and you'll end up replacing the zipper. So we're going to change our machine length, stitch length, to 4.5. So the design that you're stitching, use the plus button and the plus button and press that all the way up to 4.5. We're going to stitch this at 7/8 of an inch instead of 5/8, which is your normal seam width. And we're going to line this up and no back stitching. So we stitch this, oops, forgot to change the feed dog's back. We're going to stitch this all the way down to the pin. When you get to your pin, we're going to change this back to the regular stitching, 2.5. We're going to back stitch so it holds our seam, and we're going to stitch the rest of the way down. And back stitch at the end. We're going to open up our seam and our fabric. And if you were doing this in an actual garment, you'd probably want to go over to the iron and iron this so that it's completely flat. And we're going to take our masking tape. With the masking tape, we're going to run this on the edge of our zipper, barely on the edge of it. And remember, it has to be face down in order for it to work right when you get all done. And when you get done, I don't know if you can see through there, but it should only be just a little bit. If you hold it up to the light, you can see that it's barely on the edge of that zipper. We're going to lay this face down and line it up so that the zipper coil goes right on the center of that seam. We're going to roll this with that coil going directly down the middle of the seam. And just press your tape down. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. You can just tape this down right on the edge. And again, barely get any of the zipper because you don't want to sew through the tape. It'll gum up or stick on your needle, and sometimes it skips stitches. So now, once we get to this point, it'd be nice if we could sew on this side because you'd see. But this is the side everybody sees. So we need to sew on this side and trust that you have it pinned correctly. We're going to take a pin and we're going to put it just below the metal so that we know that we're not going to hit this when we sew it. You're going to change your foot to your E foot. And with the E foot, we want to make sure that it's going to attach to our machine so that the opening is closest to that coil that's going down the middle of the seam. I'm going to take this foot off, put this one on, and then we're going to line this up to stitch it. One other thing you're going to want to do, because we can't really see where that coil is and where that zipper is, we're going to put a pin, and there's it's hard to see, kind of a marking on your zipper that's going to show where you should stitch. I'm going to run a pin about where I can see that. And then I can look at this, and it's hitting right on that line. So now when I go to line this up, I line up my needle with my pin, take out my pin, and the distance from my foot to the seam is what I'm going to use to keep this straight. We have to backstitch because this is going to stay in here permanently. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just stitch this on down. So again, I'm looking from this foot to the seam to make sure I'm keeping it straight. And when you get to the pin, you're going to leave your needle down, pivot, take your pin out, and we're going to use our hand wheel and count how many stitches it takes to get to that center. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3 right in the middle. I'm going to do 3 stitches on this side so it stays even. So there's 1, 2, 3. We're going to turn this, and we're going to go up the other side. Again, using the foot and the seam to keep it straight. Once you have that done, you're going to look at this and see if it's fairly straight. If it's good enough, you're going to look on this side, and you're going to make sure that you caught your zipper. And here it's a little bit off, but it's in the zipper. So we're good to go. You're going to peel off your your tape. You're going to peel off this side. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your seam ripper, and we're going to open up the seam. Be very careful that you take this out by way of stitches, because if you go too fast, you could catch your fabric and put a hole in it. And we don't want to do that, because otherwise then you have to start all over. And then once you have those out, you can pull your little threads, and there's your center lap zipper.